This video message is for Nick Shirley. I hope Nick will respond to this message with another video that he will make, because we in the Armenian community demand that he responds to this message. And many Armenians around the world are going to share this message until millions of people watch what we demand, just like millions of people watched the videos he made in which he humiliated the Armenian community of Los Angeles and California, very hardworking people who were able to achieve something that's very rare in this country, which is Glendale is one of the safest cities in the United States, and that's a known fact. A criminal nation of criminals. He claimed that there is an Armenian mafia, and basically he didn't name any names of the mafia boss, the underboss, the people that are involved in this organization, which means that the entire nation is involved in this mafia. Because if there was a mafia, which is a criminal organization, it would have names, because mafias consist of people, not animals. People, and those people have names. And so, who is the boss of this organization? Who is the underboss? Are there any capos in this mafia? We needed names, but we never heard any names. But nevertheless, he made those very bold claims. We'll get to that. Here is the thing. There is this one very important factor that no one took into account. When the federal or state government investigate any type of crime, it doesn't work the way Nick Shirley tried to present to you, as if he came and with some papers in his hands and demanded that some people respond to his questions. And when they didn't or they couldn't, he claimed that these people are committing crimes. And then a couple of days later, the government showed videos on their channels, their TikToks, and even the news station that they are busting some people. They came and arrested some people for medical fraud. It's impossible. It is impossible that the government came and arrested any of the people Nick Shirley was investigating or exposed, supposedly, because the government, the way crime investigations work in the government, there has to be a cause. The government has to have a reason to believe a person is committing a crime, or a corporation or a group of people are committing a crime. Then they need to put investigators on that group of people or onto that person, tap their phones, which takes time to get the approval from the court. Judge needs to sign off. They need to put an investigator to put surveillance on that person. They need to get into their bank account. They need to request the banks to allow the federal or the state government to look into that person's bank account. So sometimes they have to hire a forensic accountant that the government employs to look into that person's finances. So every investigation the prosecutor now has in their hands or on their desks takes months, sometimes years to investigate. And that's because when the government brings a case to court in front of a judge, they have to be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that that person committed this crime. Even prior that, when they bring a case in front of a grand jury, they need to be able to convince that these people truly, or this person truly committed a crime. These investigations, even the most rapid ones, take months. Let's say we have a super prosecutor, and this prosecutor was able to investigate this particular claim Nick Shirley made within 3 weeks or a month, which is almost impossible, and any attorney will tell you it's impossible, especially when it comes to medical fraud. They need to request all the paperwork, go back, first of all, years. How many years did this person operate? Take a look at all the billing. They need to go and get the billing out of the government or the offices of this person's billing department, the hospice care's billing department, or the government needs to provide, let's say they build California's Medi-Cal or Medicare, whatever, that Medi-Cal needs to provide all the billing, how much they paid this person in time, how much this person billed, and how much they were paid, how many patients they have, whether those patients exist or don't exist. They might need to go knock on some doors to see if those people exist. All of this is an investigation. At first, the department that's going to investigate has to ask for a budget for this specific case. It's such a long process and bureaucracy. You guys don't understand how much is involved by investigating a person and bringing it in front of a grand jury or in front of a judge to say this person is guilty. We know beyond reasonable doubt, we can prove that. Now it's time to go and indict that person and start the process. Nick Shirley supposedly came and investigated people, and then after he left, the government went and arrested some people. We have no idea if those people had anything to do with Nick Shirley's investigated people, the people he was investigating, approaching, going to their offices. I'm pretty sure the people he went and intimidated had nothing to do with the ones that government went and arrested with that very nice house and the G-Wagon parked on the driveway. The government had to been investigating that particular case, or the ones that they went and arrested, indicted for months prior that. Only they synchronized and made it look like Nick Shirley's investigation bear fruit, and they were able to go and bust people. This is very obvious that this was a synchronized operation, and it's very obvious that the orders to do this came from all the way from the top, and only someone that doesn't know how the system works and operates will believe this, will believe that Nick Shirley's investigation actually resulted in arrests. You have to be very ignorant about how the government works, how the system works, the American judicial system works, to believe that that's what happened. The average American is gonna think that because media is able to manipulate, but ask any attorney, anyone that knows the law, knows how the system works, and they'll tell you that Nick Shirley's investigation and those arrests were too close to each other, so no prosecutor, nobody, no government body would have enough time to investigate those. So everything Nick Shirley did and synchronized with the news, with the prosecutor's office, this was all a a psychological operation or something of that sort. So it's obvious that that's not what was taking place. So after now I explained everything and told the people what exactly I think was happening, that this was a propaganda campaign against the Armenian people, because on the other side of the world, the politics around Armenia is very important to the United States currently. And Turkey and Azerbaijan, Armenia's number one enemies, two Muslim countries next to us, the Christian Armenia, are trying to capitulate Armenia and conquer Armenia. And in the upcoming elections in Armenia in 2 months, if the current prime minister remains in office, who is an American puppet, and he's been trying to pull Armenia from the hands of Russia and bring in Turkey into Armenia, and basically Turkey and Azerbaijan will conquer Armenia if he gets reelected, and that's what the United States wants. That's exactly what Donald Trump wants. And so the only big organization and the only people that would oppose that, and the only people that will make a very big noise about that, would be the Armenian diaspora in the United States, the more than million Armenians that live in the United States, who are mostly very successful, well-to-do, and many wealthy Armenians, many attorneys who will not just sit by and not do anything. And so the Armenian lobby, which was the second most powerful lobby in the United States after AIPAC, would not sit by and do nothing about Turkey, Armenia's biggest enemy, the people that killed 1.5 million Armenians, massacred Armenians during World War I. There is an Armenian genocide that they don't want to recognize and need to pay close to $14 trillion in reparations. And so we have every reason to believe, because this phony investigation was so obvious, that this is what was taking place, and they were just trying to throw mud at the Armenian lobby and the Armenian community, and they used Nick Shirley to do it. It's possible that he wasn't even aware that he was being used for such a nefarious reason. It's very possible, but we have every reason to believe that that's what was taking place and nothing else. Because let me ask Nick now something, and I hope he will be able to respond, because if he doesn't, then we have a problem, and we are gonna get to the bottom of this, because I hold a degree in journalism. There is this thing called journalistic integrity, which you, as a journalist, many Americans in the comment section were asking or calling for you, Nick, to receive a Pulitzer Prize. But your very bold claims as a journalist don't have any bold evidence behind them, and I'm going to explain why. It's a known fact that when you're a new immigrant in this country, you just arrived 3, 4, 5, even 7 years ago. Every time someone approaches you and tries to talk to you, when your English is not that good, you still don't speak English well, it's very intimidating, because the first 3 to 4 years in a country where this is not your country yet, you just arrived, you're an economic migrant, you're worried, everyone talking to you makes you very uncomfortable, you're not in your own comfort zone and space. So when someone physically much larger or taller than them, a person that speaks English perfectly because that's his language, runs up to you with a microphone and a camera and a crew and starts asking you questions where you're at work just doing your job at any office, whether that's a body shop, whether it's a medical office, hospice care, or a daycare, or a supermarket, doesn't matter. When you're new in this country and that happens, it's very intimidating and you get nervous, you don't know what to say, your English is not good enough to stand for yourself, so you look stupid in a way to the average local or a native who's watching this video. You're not able to stand up for yourself. The questions that are thrown at you are accusations of crime. You're not able to resolve them or at least give them something. Instead, you go and get in your car and leave. To the average American, you're going to look guilty. It's simple as that. So, Nick Shirley went around and did this to many people, men that were much older. And trust me, most of these people, because he went to very different type of businesses, they were not only medical businesses. In fact, he possibly went to 20% of medical businesses, 80% to some other businesses that had nothing to do with medicine or medical. And he went and intimidated many people. And this is unfortunate, but many people living in Glendale, North Hollywood, very Armenian populated areas, don't speak English well. They might live there for a very long time, but might not be able to speak English like I do, or other Armenians who made sure to pay attention to learning the language well, work on their accents or whatever. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But that's not a crime. That is not a crime. So when you go and you get on people's faces and ask them questions and intimidate them, and they're not able to respond to you in a proper manner, they look guilty. That's exactly what you did. That was not journalism. You go and you don't even know if these people have anything to do with medical, and you intimidate them. Then after that, everyone knows in Los Angeles that the Armenian men have weaknesses for cars, and there is a very simple explanation for that. You need to understand that most of these people immigrated from the former Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, it was almost impossible for people to own vehicles. Armenian men lived there for their entire lives, dreamt about having cars, and might not be able to own a car. Every building that had 100 families in the Soviet Union, those Soviet bloc buildings, only 3 or 4 people might own Soviet-made cars. So for Armenian men, owning a car was a dream come true. So when they immigrated to the United States, and most of them are economic migrants, guess what they do? The first thing they do when they make money, they run to buy a car. That is unfortunate too. Many of them might even pay 30-40% of their income for a car. I find that to be wrong, but many people do it nevertheless. That's not a crime as long as they are able to work and pay for it. To the average American, that looks awkward that these people all drive nice cars. But let me also explain something else. If the average American will walk into a Toyota dealership and the dealership will take advantage of them and will sell them a Camry for $900 a month. The Armenians know how to negotiate, they know the game. They walk into a dealership and they're in control of this deal. They take control from the salesman and they walk out or they drive out in a brand new Mercedes at $350 a month. You just need to know how to negotiate. While you drive a Toyota for 900 because you didn't do your homework, they will go and drive off in a Mercedes for half the price. You look at them, you'll think they have money or they are up to no good. This is why they're able to afford that. Well, in reality, you can do the same thing. You just don't know how. So get an Armenian friend, maybe, I don't know. But that's not a crime either. When you go and intimidate men that are in their 60s, lived in the Soviet Union for their entire lives, came to the United States, don't speak English, and their appearance to the average American is like Eastern or a Muslim because we're Christians. Armenians, all Armenians are Christians. In fact, we're the first Christian people in the world. First, year 301, when we accepted Christianity as a nation, the people around the world were still worshiping all types of trees and mountains and other things. So we're all Christians. And because we come from that side of the world and our appearance is a bit darker, because I felt this on my skin numerous times in this country where I looked like a Muslim to an average American, and I was mistaken for a Muslim, and I was intimidated. I was attacked even after September 11th. So because of that, an Armenian is already at a disadvantage, but that's not our fault. That's the fault of the person who didn't do their homework to find out who's who. But we don't blame anyone for that. But we know how the average American views at a Muslim, because we already know for the past 30, 40 years in this country, Muslims are viewed as bad people. And so when you go and intimidate people like that, that to the average American look like a Muslim, and then they get in their car and leave because they cannot respond back to you due to lack of language skills, and then you say that sound of that exhaust is the sound of your tax dollars. Those are some very dramatic and big lines, very dramatic. Have you ever thought about writing movie scripts, maybe, Nick? Because that's good, that's very dramatic. On top of that, let me ask you something else. You went around and you investigated the Somalians. You investigated the Armenians. Although, once again, your investigations bear no fruit. They did not give any fruit. There was no arrests that it resulted. Your investigations did not result any arrests. If they did, I'd like to know the names, please. Show me, prove to us that you actually investigated someone that was arrested. It's all synchronized and theater. That's what happened. That's what we think. And it's all Turkish and Azerbaijani lobbies. We have every reason to believe that you were employed by Turkish and Azerbaijani lobbies. If not, please prove us otherwise. So all of this was very cute. Now, you did the damage, you humiliated the Armenian people in front of the whole world, because once again, TikTok and YouTube are international. The whole world watches. So now we look like we're thieves to the American people and to the entire world. Then you made even bigger and bolder claims by going to podcast, as usually it happens. Someone will go and do the footwork and then podcasts with questionable backgrounds will pass that person around to inject the misinformation into the American public. We already know how this works, Nick. But you made a claim that the Armenian people have a mafia. There is an active criminal organization, mafia, in California, Armenian mafia. You made that claim during Sean Ryan's show. He didn't push back, which again is very questionable, but you keep making that claim that there is an Armenian mafia. Now, look, Nick, mafia is a criminal organization, it's a pyramid of people, not cats and dogs or raccoons, camels. No, people. Usually, those people have names and last names, first and last names. Since you made such a bold claim that there is an Armenian mafia, you need to provide names. You need to give the world and the Armenian community the names of those mafiosos, the names of the mafia members. Who's the boss of that mafia? Who's the underboss? Where do the tentacles of that mafia go? Where do they reach? Do they reach the government? Any agencies? Do they have any political connections? Because going back in history, from the Italian mafia in New York, we know that they were able to infiltrate every government body and organization and unions and so many places. So we need to know who those people are, and we demand, not need to know, we demand to know who those mafiosos are, Armenian mafiosos are. We need to know the names so that we ourselves, we don't need you to do that for us. We ourselves will deal with that. We will report them to the federal government so that they could come and put an end to this mafia, because we don't want to have an Armenian mafia in California or anywhere. So the thing is that mafia is a criminal organization that will do so much as they'll kill you. They will hurt a human being or even families, especially when you expose their financial crimes. We know that in a mafia structure, finance is basically, it's their artery. So when you go and expose such a thing, that is something that you could get hurt, but you didn't. You went to many Armenian shopping centers in places where almost everyone is Armenian residents. Even the cops are Armenians, right? So you went home safe and sound. Nothing happened to you, although you supposedly exposed their crimes. You exposed all of their crimes to the entire world. How did you go home? I mean, I witnessed you going to the Brazilian ghettos and walking out. And now you're very lucky. So I'm assuming that, I know that you know that if you did this to the Italian mafia in New York back in the 80s, you would never walk out from those neighborhoods. You'd be lost. You'd be a missing person. But the Armenians must be very, very kind mafiosos. So please, since you already went home safe and sound and no one threatened you, nothing happened to you, we'd like to know, and no one is going to threaten you and nothing is going to happen to you, because we, the Armenians, we're not sure that there is an Armenian mafia. We would know if there was, but we know there is not. But since you already made such a bold claim and told the American people there is an Armenian mafia, we demand to know all the names of those mafiosos, or at least few names. Because if there is fraud, Nick, in California, medical fraud, mafia fraud, any type of fraud, I promise you, I will come with you so we can go and report those people and make sure they come and do whatever is necessary, because we don't want to be humiliated in front of the whole world as thieves, because thieves cannot possibly have the safest city in the United States, be hardworking people. We help each other. That's how our community is. Armenians are a nation. We're not people. We don't have pedophiles. We don't hurt people. We don't do anything bad. We're very kind, good people, which is why California decided to ban you, because I think California is aware that you work for a specific organization or lobbying group, or maybe even directly for the White House, and you are doing a very nefarious job for them, possibly without even knowing. But since you already investigated the Armenians, the Somalians, I've done a lot of research. As I said, I hold a degree in journalism. I've done a lot of research, and most of medical businesses, pharmaceutical, medical, pharmacies, and the largest medical businesses in this country are owned by Jewish Americans. I am hoping that very soon you'll investigate those too, so that you don't single out only the Somalians and the Armenians. I'm not even sure the Somalians were in the picture. I think the Somalians were investigated just so that the Armenians are not singled out. But I hope you will investigate those Jewish Americans too. Also, I know that there are many African Americans that own medical hospice cares, daycares. I've done the research. There are many different kind of people, different races and religious groups that own medical buildings and offices and hospice and daycares. I'm hoping that you will start investigating those too, because I looked up some numbers, some data, and it shows that the Armenians, the size of the businesses Armenians owned, are pretty small, and the others that I just mentioned own very large medical businesses, including very large hospitals, very large. So please start investigating them too, but respond to what I just asked you about the Armenian mafia. That's very important. We need to know who those are, because if you don't, Nick, then everything you've done in California was nothing but a propaganda campaign against the Armenian people, paid by the Turkish and Azerbaijani lobby. And maybe even there was an involvement of some type of US agency, three-letter, or even a lobbying group, or even Congress or Senate members. That's a possibility too. So please give us 3 names of the people that you personally investigated, and those people are now in custody, and we need to look up the case numbers and see the cases that you actually investigated, exposed them those days that you were investigating. 3 people or 2 people, give us 2 people, that's fine. And also the names of at least some names from the Armenian mafia organization. Please, if you don't do it, Nick, then please, I think my request to you is a very reasonable request, and I'm sure people watching this will absolutely agree that what I just said is very reasonable. No one is threatening you with anything. This is all about your journalistic abilities and also integrity, because once again, I'm a journalist too. I don't do it for a living, but I hold a degree, so I know what journalism is. And what you've been doing by far, to me, doesn't look like journalism. So I'd like to really, really see that you've done your homework and you know what you're doing. And what you did was not a propaganda campaign against the Armenian community to throw mud at the Armenian community, dirt, and make us look like thieves in front of not the United States only, but the whole world. That's it. That's all we're requesting. So thank you very much for watching. Nick, I hope we will hear from you soon. I ask every Armenian watching this to share this video. Please share this video. Thank you very much. Bye now.